Mr. Speaker, last fall, when the government introduced grain-by-rail legislation, they rejected all proposed amendments by farmers. Their new legislation to address the grain crisis has been described by the Saskatchewan government and many farmers as, quote, deficient and disappointing. This time, when their legislation goes to committee, will the government commit to listening to farmers' good advice and accepting amendments and improvements?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, let me say that yesterday the Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Transport, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, delivered important legislation that is decisive in the way that it challenges the rail transportation system to deliver grain to the ports. Mr. Speaker, it establishes minimum volume requirements for grain movement, it strengthens contracts between producers and shippers, and it increases interswitching limits to create more rail competition. Mr. Speaker, this is a good piece of legislation for our Canadian farmers, and I ask the opposition to support it.
Mr. Speaker, the grain crisis in Western Canada is 6 months old. By the government's own calculation, the hit on farmers is $8 billion. The legislation tabled yesterday mostly authorizes regulations to be made which are still secret. There's no comprehensive monitoring, no better transparency, no logistical coordination, no railway costing review, no new capacity, no definition of service levels, no way to measure performance, no damages to farmers when services fail. Why was all of that left out, and when will farmers actually get to see these draft regulations?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I really wish the member had read the legislation that was tabled in the House yesterday, because by reading it, Mr. Speaker, he would see what this legislation actually sets out to accomplish. I mentioned before, Mr. Speaker, that it will increase supply chain transparency. It will strengthen contractual mechanisms between producers and shippers, and Mr. Speaker, it's going to help to ensure that the entire grain handling and transportation system is working at its peak efficiency. You should support the bill, Mr. Speaker.